Welcome back to Seek Strength. Today's video is brought to you by the Seek Strength off-season stream of programs. This is 4 weeks per block, 2 blocks available, 8 weeks total, 4 sessions per week. This is our GPP strength stuff for your off-season. There is no Olympic lifts involved in this, but if you would like to add some Olympic lifts, I could direct you towards our Clean Up Your Clean program, where the program specifically has a stream related to improving your 1RM power clean. It'll be very obvious when you get the program. Enjoy the video. Welcome back to Sikistan. So recently we found out about this little workout called the Litvinov Workout. So supposedly it was done by a gentleman called Sergey Litvinov, Olympic gold medalist in the hammer throw. And the workout he did, or rumored to have done, was 3 sets of 8 front squats with 185 kilos. We've seen anywhere from 180 to 185, immediately followed by a 400 meter run at a 75-second pace. Now this was done 3 times and we were like, this is astronomical, this is a ridiculous workout. But we went and did a little bit of looking, and if you go to the website throwersuniteworldwide.com, they actually say that this workout was an urban legend, it wasn't real. So we were talking about this yesterday and today once we found out about it, and we were like, this is ludicrous. So it turns out Sergey Litvinov's son confirmed this, that it was an urban legend among the throwing community and did not actually happen. We just couldn't understand. We were like, this is insane. We were trying to work out what level of 1RM you would need, and then what level of like conditioning you'd need to be able to do the sets of 8, 3x8 alone at 180, and what percentage of your max you'd want to be having those 3x8s and 180 at to make them feasible, followed by a run. And we were thinking your front squat would have to be in the region of 250 plus at the time, of doing the 3x8. And this was supposedly done by an 89 kilo man, and we were just like, this is,
it's insanity.
Fun. Yeah,
the thing is, like, the run on its own is grand. It's not an unattainable run time, but like, so if you look at 500 pound squat and sub 5 minute mile, both of those separately, you're like, oh yeah, they're doable,
Yes.
like they're doable if you really specialize. 3x8 at 180 in the front squat is insanity.
So my best front squat to date is 240 kilos, and I think I've done 220 for a triple before. I don't know, could I do 3x8 and 180 at any point? I could definitely do 1 set of 8, but that would be it'd be so hard to keep that barbell in position.
Yeah.
And then at the same time to be able to do that in a position where you could do the run at the same time, even in the same week, I will say one thing though, I think 1 round of this is definitely possible. I don't think 3 rounds is possible for anyone. Well, not possible, but very improbable.
Yeah, I think a round is possible at some point by someone.
And would be sickeningly impressive.
Yeah. Like just the lactic build-up from 1 round would be insane. Like, to do the pump you'd have in your quads for a set of 8 on the front squat at 180 would be insane anyway. And then a 75-second 400, like, you're getting up there with leg fatigue, doing one of those straight after the other. I can just imagine somebody going into shock and possibly dying.
I think this workout is how you get rhabdo.
Yeah, I think this is rhabdo.
Yeah, that's where rhabdo came from.
Yeah.
So, like, as a training tool, like, if you were to be able to do one of these, you would have to this would become a sport in itself, So, if you looked at this on paper, the principles of this would fit what we've been talking about recently is, general physical preparedness. Like, this would be the ultimate GPP kind of training workout or training. Yeah, workout would be the right way of describing it for a lot of different athletes, especially strength and power athletes like throwers. They have ridiculous levels of power development. Speed strength is incredibly high. So this kind of workout, if feasible, would be fit the bill, as a very impressive GPP workout. But unfortunately, it's such an extreme feat of human performance even to be able to do 1 round of this. So 1 set of 8 plus 175-second 400 meters, that it would itself become a sport. This looks like more extreme than any CrossFit workout you could ever possibly come up with.
Yeah, I could see there being a host of issues with training both of those so extremely at the same time. The same kind of issues people would have if they were never training and kind of taking up very, very high intensity CrossFit for the first time. Say they'll have the issues of drastic overtraining, of interference of one training modality versus the other. I think it's certainly a case where you're going to get somebody with a monster front squat doing some GPP work and some running work, and then it kind of just happening, you know. I don't really see somebody coming in without one of these being very, very easy for them.
Yeah, there's no way. I don't even think, though, the fact that, you know, you get a lot of people who can run a 400 meters in 75 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Very,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
doable for a lot of people. But it's the 3x8 at 185, which is just the astronomical portion of this. There's nobody who's going to be very good at running. I think the only people that could ever come at this are people with the already very large front squat.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a runner coming into this, because it would take so long to develop that amount of strength to get to even 1x8. Let's pretend we're talking about just the Litvinov Workout in one
Just
round
one
of it.
round, yeah.
Like you could only get, there's no thrower or there's no runner I know of that could be, you know, come to this, a track athlete, incredibly, you know, the typical build as they should be. They're in their sport. It's quite limmy, very long legs. You know, generally torsos can kind of vary, I suppose, maybe medium to longer torsos, just making the front squat a lot more difficult for them. That longer legs, incredibly long tibias. You know, this is so useful, used less for that really long, that heavy front squat for 3 sets of 8 or one set of 8 even, that there's just no way someone as a runner could come into this. But it's very feasible that I think someone who is already very strong could come into this and then whittle down that 400 meters to, you know, the 75 seconds. As like the 75 seconds go, where would you be placing that in terms of
75 seconds is 5 minute mile pace for one lap.
Yeah.
So it's a quarter of a mile for 75, or for the run, you know. Like last year in training, within 4 weeks of each other, I would have front squatted 200 kilos and ran a 64 second 400. But that front squat is like maxed out front squat, you know. Like there's simply no way I could have put a pair of running spikes on and done a 400 immediately after that.
If you had to put the 75 second 400 meter into equivalent 1RM front squat in terms of like
140.
So it's very like,
well,
it's
yeah,
tough. Like
I assume almost everyone would be able to if they tried.
Okay, so it really is just the front squat portion of this.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a very biased opinion as well. Like, but this is the most difficult thing of this. Firstly, is the sheer numbers and the volume in the front squat, and then secondly, one after the other. Like doing that in the same hour would be insane.
I'm disappointed it's not real.
Yeah.
It was nice knowing that I'm both happy. It was nice knowing there's a freak of nature out there back in the Dizzy in the Soviet Union who was doing things like this. It makes me happy to know that he was, you know, just doing this kind of thing. Like there was a person out there who did this kind of thing. But
It also makes me happy knowing that person existed where this rumor could exist for so long.
Yes. It was fully believable.
Yeah.
You know, if someone said this about a random athlete and I was like, there's no way that person did that.
No.
Would you want to be that kind of person where someone was like, yeah, he did it?
Yeah. One of my athletes, one of my one-to-ones was a thrower in the 70s. Very, very high level athlete, and still is a very good athlete, competing in masters rowing. Said his first ever international throwing competition he went to, he was competing against a guy by the name of Ricky Bruch. There's a movie made about him. Zach did a reaction video to him. He's another absolute animal of a human, and they're the kind of humans you're talking about when you look at challenges like this, and you're talking about multiple sets of 8s in the front squat at 180 or 185 kilos, and then running those kind of times. I'm not sure if throwers today would be at that same level. I'm not sure if the level of strength and athleticism would be existing at the same time in a thrower season currently, or whether they'd be kind of more spread out, whether those run times would be happening at a certain time of year and the strength numbers would happen at a different time of year. I really don't know, but it's insane to think that this existed.
I want to finish the video with a funny story. So one of the funny story I've heard about throwers. So if you read Gregory Trinkoff's book, I actually can't think the top of my head what the book is called. Incredibly interesting book. But he talks about a Russian thrower. So when they were testing everyone's samples, this was sometime in the 80s or 90s from what I can remember. So if any of you are working in a lab or anything, you'll know the importance of cleaning your systems, cleaning your chromatography, your mass specs, all these things, cleaning them out so there's no carryover from the previous run. And there was one of the throwers had taken so much sinazolol and was known for taking so much sinazolol that after every time they test the sample, they had to thoroughly clean the system because they would almost guarantee a false positive from the amount of sinazolol in his sample, or the sinazolol metabolites, we should say, not the actual sinazolol, which I think is hilarious that you were taking that much performance enhancing drugs, that that the system literally, like, because there'd be wash runs and stuff ran after these samples, you know, there'd be a wash finished after you'd run through the system.
Yeah.
So it's so funny that they would have to do a legitimate clean down just to make sure you wouldn't get a false positive on the metabolites after for the next person.
I know in that video, Zach did a reaction to the Swedish thrower Bruch. He's talking about 428 tablets a day going up to 750. Now I assume that's a mistranslation. They're talking about milligrams. If they're talking about milligrams, it's still an insane amount of drugs for one person to be taking.
Yeah.
Like, this is far beyond anything that I've ever heard of for performance athletes. It's different for bodybuilders. Like, bodybuilders are very different level of intakes, but for performance athletes, that's simply insane.
The more you delve into every sport, the more you find out that there was just always people at the top who just took a shitload of drugs.
Yeah.
Because you think of some sports being like, oh, a little bit cleaner than the others, or a little bit less, you know, like sprinters have to come off drugs a couple of weeks beforehand because their performance actually goes up because they keep the strength and power ratio, but their strength to power ratio increases, their body weight to power ratio increases, and they lose a lot of the water weight from drugs, and their performance increases, and you're kind of like, but then you hear about like cycling and stuff, and then you hear about throwing, and then you jiu-jitsu, and then weightlifting, and then bodybuilding, and you're like, oh, it's just all sports.
Yeah, everything.
Still though, I love to see it though. Maybe someone someday might do this.
Hopefully Blaine McConnell will do it. I know he's training for it at the moment.
Yeah.
That's a suitably horse-like man.
Yeah, if there was a man who could probably
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
I think he's definitely one of the men who could do it.
Yeah.
Even one round would be incredible.
Yeah.